There are so many different kinds of gamers in the world, from casual to hardcore, to those who go all in on one IP, to others like myself who place combat systems and tactical variety above all else. But regardless of differences between gamers, there is a moment that occurs that is universal to all of us. It's the moment when you're playing through a new game, and at some point a stunning realization hits you like a shotgun to the chest. I think I love this game. For me, this moment, this epiphany, is the holy grail of dopamine when it comes to gaming, because you know that the love affair has just begun, and hours upon hours of engaging gameplay still awaits you. Today, we'll be taking a look at 5 games with perfect combat, each of which instigated in me the realization that all gamers desire. The realization that you think to yourself with a smile, I think I found a new game. Now, the first game on this list is one that I believe should have been a nominee for Best Action Game at the 2025 Game Awards, and I would even go so far to say that it deserved a nomination for Game of the Year. And while both of those awards went to fantastic games, with Clair Obscur deservedly winning Game of the Year and Hades 2 winning Best Action Game, the fact that Khazan, the cel-shaded soulslike with some of the best and most kinetic combat you can find on the market, was completely absent from the 2025 Game Awards is an absolute crime. So here I am once again to sing the praises of a game snubbed and buried. As a massive fan of Souls-likes, with Lies of P, Sekiro, Black Myth Wukong, and Wu Chang Fallen Feathers being among my favorites in the genre, Khazan stands tall alongside these giants, if not a head taller. Khazan, despite not meeting sales expectations, undoubtedly meets the expectations for the Souls-like fanatic. Animation for visual spectacle doesn't matter to me, but animation in a game like Khazan that requires precise timing is integral to the combat, so it does matter here. And let me tell you, Khazan has some of the cleanest animations for every attack, and clean animations translate to clear enemy telegraphs, which is vital in making the combat feel so goddamn exceptional. In addition to this, excellent hit feedback makes you feel like you're actually swinging a weapon at an enemy instead of a wet noodle, and excellent multi-phase boss battles that are unapologetically tough as nails put all of your skills to the test. Khazan is a 10 out of 10 in all of these areas. In Khazan, players will have the choice between 3 weapon types. The spear excels at mid and close range with quick spin and poke combos that chip enemy stamina, and has defensive options like Heat Wave that deflects all incoming damage. The greatsword trades attack speed for massive brutal attack multipliers when enemies break, and dual daggers sacrifice range for relentless chains that prevent enemy recovery between your combos. Each weapon demands different positioning strategies and bring timing windows, and each of these weapon types have their own extensive skill trees where you can learn new specific weapon actions, in addition to a shared common skill tree that boosts your overall character stats. Up to 6 active abilities can be slotted at any one time, and with free respec you are allowed to experiment with everything a weapon has to offer without consequence. Furthermore, Khazan features a competent armor system by offering a wealth of armor sets, which, depending on how many pieces of the same set you have equipped, offer set bonuses. Take for instance the golden set that I've been using for my new Game Plus playthrough. The full set gives dodge a stamina cost reduction, boosted health and stamina damage on back attacks, boosted damage for a spear skill called Trance, and adds an entirely unique move called Moonlight Awakening that allows you to slash through an enemy and slip behind them for massive attack and posture damage when performing a light attack after Trance. There are a ton of sets just like this one that create build-defining synergies that fundamentally change your combat approach. And since armor randomly drops from mobs and will scale with the level of your character, throughout the game you will constantly be swapping out armor once you invariably outlevel your current setup, which encourages experimentation with different armor sets, especially if their item level is much higher than what you have equipped. Even cooler, by visiting the cube next to Oksana the Alchemist, you can re-roll the modifiers present on a piece of gear for a new random modifier, and you can also re-roll the stat boost number associated with each modifier, which has a minimum and maximum range, in an attempt to get the best stats you possibly can. When it comes to combat itself, every hit taken and received packs a serious punch. To put it simply, Khazan just feels so damn good to play. Solid iframe windows when executing a perfect dodge, called a brink dodge, which rewards perfect timing with enhanced attacks, temporary invincibility, and better positioning so you can break an enemy's combo, and Brink Guard, Khazan's version of a perfect parry. These all feel immensely satisfying to execute and have the added benefit of significantly reducing an enemy's fortitude bar, or in layman's terms, their stamina bar, to open the enemy up for a devastating, brutal attack. There is even a harder, truer version of a parry called Reflection, whose timing can be trickier to pull off, but if it lands, it will break the enemy's posture and leave them open to massive damage if you follow up. When it comes to difficulty, Khazan is no pushover. Take Aratra, one of the relatively early bosses you will face off against. The spider has over 5 different melee hit combos that require timing mastery to dodge or perfect guard. A web attack that can bind you and leave you vulnerable to her jump attack, poison globules that can whittle down your health if you fail to dodge, and it can also poison its own appendages, which makes guarding and parrying a now very dangerous option. Aracha's weak point is its abdomen, but getting in position to strike it is very difficult, and it will counterattack with its spinnerets to punish you for trying. But the risk is worth the reward, as hitting the abdomen enough will cause massive damage to Aratra's health and fortitude bar. Another option, and the more reliable, is to attack Aratra's appendages, which can be severed after taking enough sustained damage and puts Aratra in an extremely vulnerable state where you can lay on the pain. When a spider attempts to exit the arena in order to pounce on you, if you act fast enough and dish out enough damage, you can even knock Aratra back down to get some additional hits in before it exits the arena. These kinds of intricate mechanics are what makes Khazan's boss fights an absolute tactical feast that demands mechanical mastery from the player. Every boss in Khazan is unique from each other, and unique unto themselves due to almost all of them being multi-phase fights with evolving mechanics, and they are an absolute marvel to face off against. The euphoria that you feel in taking down these bosses is the most crucial evocation of feeling that a Souls-like can bring about in a player, and it is inextricably linked to how responsive and kinetic the combat system feels. It is the reason gamers love the genre. Khazan hits all of these notes, and it's genuinely one of the greatest Souls-likes on the market and an absolute must-buy. Khazan has a base price point of $59.99 USD on Steam, with past sales seeing it drop to $41.99. If you value mechanical depth and boss design that rewards mastery of your weapon type, Khazan delivers on this tenfold. Next up at bat is the stylish card-based kung fu roguelike Nitro Kid, which released back in 2022 and has a mere 386 reviews on Steam. Don't let this dissuade you though, as Nitro Kid is mechanically deep and rewards careful planning and execution for those who master its systems. With 3 playable characters that have wildly different playstyles, over 250 cards spread between them, and more than 50 unique enemy types to square off against, Nitro Kid has you covered in the department of build variety. But what makes Nitro Kid stand out from other roguelikes is how much positioning matters, because it turns combat encounters into mini chess-like battles that require careful consideration to survive. Enemies telegraph their attacks above their health bars, showing exactly what damage they'll deal and where. Most enemies auto-rotate when you move adjacent to them, others pursue you across the grid, but here's the tactical layer. You can manipulate these behaviors against them. Daze prevents enemy reactions, letting you reposition safely. Push forces targets backwards and deals collision damage if they hit walls or allies. Goad pulls all enemies towards you. Smart positioning lets enemies hit each other with friendly fire. Picture this, you're K31, the dual pistol and rifle fighter. You bait a boss with the auto pursuit trait into a disadvantageous position, execute a chain pistol shot that ricochets between adjacent targets, throw a grenade to deal AoE damage and push the third enemy unit into a corner, then shoot and push the second enemy into the boss to cause burst and collision damage. This is the kind of positional manipulation that makes Nitro Kid's combat tactical as all hell. And this leads us to Nitro Kid's other major strength, its roster of playable characters. There are only 3 to choose from, but each have very specific mechanics that make them incredibly unique. With Flames and Fists, L33, or Lee, the Bruce Lee-inspired melee fighter, builds momentum as he strings attacks together and slides to a tile out of enemy reach before they even know what hit them. J4X, aka Jax, the Mike Tyson-like boxer, can counterattack any adjacent enemy with a straight hook, dealing a base hit of 4 that can be extended further with the right cards. And he also has a combo meter that increases with each hit, allowing you to play powerful cards that can only be cast once the card's required combo count has been met. The aforementioned K31 is undoubtedly the trickiest character to play in Nitro Kid, due to her unique dual stance mechanic. K31 wields dual pistols to start every battle, but can switch to an assault rifle if a card specifies. In rifle stance, you receive a 50% damage increase, but can only play cards that cost ammo and are compatible with your weapon type. Mods can be loaded into your clip to provide crucial buffs, but are lost on reload, though there is another mod that prevents this for up to 2 reloads when upgraded. Switching to and from each stance also triggers follow-up cards that can be cast for free. Switching to pistol stance generates a card that weakens enemies and shields yourself, while entering rifle stance will produce a card that shoots a single target and pushes them 1 space away. Careful consideration of when to exit and enter both stances while managing your ammo clip and modifications is what makes K31 so tricky to play, but it's also what makes her one of the most interesting characters in Nitro Kid. Progression in runs is tied to choice-based events that can range from simple choices like recovering health, to more interesting ones like transforming a card of your choice into a random one, card or patch rewards after battle, with patches offering permanent passive bonuses or effects, some of which trigger on specific turns or in specific conditions, shops where you can purchase, remove a card, or upgrade patches, and infusions from test subjects that function as limited use items that can be used once per turn in combat and are mostly useful for helping you out in a pinch. With over 10 difficulty levels that unlock when you beat the previous hardest setting, Nitro Kid offers a consistent difficulty curve as the player gets more competent with the game's systems. And with the amount of strategic depth that Nitro Kid offers, the rising difficulty level encourages build optimization and expert positioning. 3 highly distinctive characters, high stakes positional combat, hundreds of upgradable cards. This hidden indie gem isn't messing around. It's tactically deep and screaming to be found. You can pick up Nitro Kid for $19.99 USD on Steam, with past sales seeing it get as low as $3.99. At its base price, you're getting a ton of bang for your buck. On sale, it's an absolute steal. The next game on this list is from Moirai Games, the creators of Monster Sanctuary, a Metroidvania creature collector that was released back in 2020. And while Monster Sanctuary is a great game in its own right, Aethermancer, Moirai Games' latest early access release, is already swinging for the fences, as it's shaping up to be one of 2026's best roguelites when it fully releases. So let's take a look at how Aethermancer knocks it out of the park. From the jump, Aethermancer is an incredibly interesting game because it features a mashup of genres that is rarely seen and executed this perfectly. Aethermancer blends the randomness of runs and meta progression of a roguelite with a creature collector that plays out in 3v3 turn-based combat. On your first run, you will have a choice between 3 starter monsters, and to expand this roster further, you will need to break a monster's stagger bar, so you can form a memento of them while they are vulnerable, which is essentially the equivalent of catching them in titles like Pokemon. And once you create a memento of a monster, they will be a possible option at resurrection stones, which are present at the beginning of each biome and can be recalled via a monster soul currency. To unlock a monster for use at the beginning of a run, you can visit Lily the Witch back in Pilgrim's Rest, the hub world, and spend Aether Crystals to expand your starting options. Currently, Aethermancer has 29 monsters available to capture, with each monster having a shifted variant, which is an alternate version with different elemental affinities and completely unique starting abilities, which brings the monster roster to a total of 58. And let's talk about those elemental affinities because they are the foundation of Aethermancer's combat. All monsters in Aethermancer are dual typed, with the 4 elements consisting of earth, fire, water, and air. There is also a 5th non-element that is wild and can be utilized as an Aether substitute for any of the 4 base elements. So why does this matter? Well, the 4 base elements are associated with the Aether a monster will generate when performing basic attacks in combat. And what do we want Aether for? Well, Aether is used to cast a monster's skills, and management of this precious resource needs to be deliberate and strategic. In addition to basic attacks generating Aether, at the end of each turn, you will recover 4 Aether that's of the same type as the monsters in your party. Your primary objective when in combat is to utilize your monster's skills to break an enemy's stagger bar, which corresponds to one of the 4 elements. Attacking an enemy with its elemental weakness will reduce the stagger bar by 1 for each hit in an attack, and when it reaches 0, the enemy loses its turn and takes 50% damage for the next 2 turns. On each level up, a monster will randomly be given a choice between 3 new skills or 3 new traits, with level 10 being the max level. By the time you reach the final boss, your monsters will be decked out, and hopefully you have built up some team synergy to take down the final baddie. Throughout your run, you can also obtain equipment through post-battle drops or merchants, and each monster can have exactly 1 of these pieces equipped. Equipment tiers range from common to epic, and they provide tremendous value and build-defining options. Take a look at a build I took through to the end. My team composition consists of Sharuf, Medusa, and Mephisto, and this build turns Medusa into an absolute nightmare. The first key component is Medusa's signature trait, Lamentation of Woes, which triggers an AoE Earth-Water attack on all enemies and applies 4 Affliction, with Affliction being a random debuff to each enemy, and this occurs for every 5 debuffs cleansed from self. And you can see here she has a Retaliate condition that cleanses 1 debuff from self, and Retaliate triggers when taking damage from an enemy or when taking damage from a debuff such as poison or burn. Now Mephisto is the next key component with his signature trait, Schadenfreude, which causes the first ally and the first enemy that use an action each turn to get 2 terror or 2 burn applied to them. In addition, Mephisto gains +1 damage and +6% evasion for every 10 debuff stacks among all monsters in combat. Now, since there is no turn order between your monsters, I make sure to always act first with Medusa to proc Mephisto's trait and apply 2 terror and 2 burn to Medusa. Remember, we want to stack as many debuffs on Medusa as we can, so she always has something to cleanse and we can trigger Lamentation of Woes more often, which will in turn continuously power up Mephisto as more debuff stacks are accrued between Medusa and the enemy team. And to buff this synergy even further, I learned a crucial skill with Medusa called Alchemical Blast, which deals a powerful water and fire elemental attack for 5 hits against target enemy and applies 4 affliction to target enemy and self. Now this skill is incredibly important because it's dual typed, hits a target multiple times, debuffs the enemy, but most importantly debuffs our monster Medusa, and still, Mephisto continues to grow stronger. To take this build to the next level, I have equipped Medusa with the Drum, which cleanses 4 debuffs and applies 1 temporary power to a target ally whenever she plays a support action. And how do I trigger this equipment's effect? Well, for one of Medusa's level ups, I made sure to learn a skill called Endure, which applies 3 poison to self and heals all allies for 10 HP, and fulfills the support skill condition to trigger the Drum's effect. With all of these pieces in place, Medusa is able to trigger Lamentation of Woes very often, sometimes even back to back, and the results are devastating for the enemy team, often breaking high hit stagger bars outright. And while there is a lot more that goes into making Medusa and Mephisto absolute demons on the field, I will stop here for the sake of brevity. Just know that if you decide to pick up Aethermancer, this is the kind of build synergy that you can look forward to. Outside of variety when it comes to build potential, variety when it comes to choice between rooms is also quite compelling. From merchant rooms that offer experience points, equipment, or artifacts for those with deep pockets, to NPC encounters such as the Witch, where you can reroll an action or trait for a specific monster, to the Knight who can offer equipment, upgrade a piece of gear you currently have equipped, or allow you to trade in a piece of gear for an epic piece, which is the highest rarity in the game, to rooms that offer an Aether Spring to cleanse your corruption levels, which is accrued when receiving damage and caps your monster's HP if not cleansed, to rooms with troves of Aether Crystals, which is the currency needed to unlock meta progression upgrades. The branching pathway options are all useful and difficult to choose between, which is the sweet point in roguelite/roguelike design. And speaking of meta progression, in Pilgrim's Rest, Aethermancer's hub world, you can exchange Aether Crystals for permanent bonuses. Lily the Witch lets you unlock monsters you have caught as starter picks. Sir Tiberian the Knight can reveal additional rare hidden monsters for future runs. Alioth the Envoy can allow you to start runs with additional monster souls, monster flasks, or skill rerolls, and Gustavo the Mayor offers upgrades such as additional gold and blank mementos at the start of a run. There's a decent amount to unlock here and it's all worthwhile. Aethermancer is on Steam for $19.99 USD, If the early access is giving you any doubt, dispel that fear from your mind. Aethermancer is already packed full of content and updated regularly, with the 1.0 release promising 60 monsters to catch, which comes to a grand total of 120 monsters when accounting for their shifted variants. Build enthusiasts rejoice, for another indie has come to quell your combat junkie cravings. The next game on this list is one that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it one anyway. Dead Cells, the fast-paced action roguelike from developer Motion Twin, hits you hard and fast, with a combat system that's frenetic and more than often, deadly. Dead Cells' biggest selling point is the sheer amount of items packed into the game. With 180 different weapons and skills to collect, it's a combat enthusiast's ultimate toy box. And just to give you an idea of how dense this number is, take a look at my collection wall, which shows all the items I've unlocked for future runs. It's only around 30% complete, and that is me being generous. And I have played Dead Cells for a solid 30 hours plus and beaten the game multiple times. In Dead Cells, that always something new around the corner feeling has a very long lifespan, and it's undoubtedly the game's biggest selling point. A complete loadout in Dead Cells looks something like this: a primary and secondary weapon, 2 skill slots for additional utility, a single accessory spot for buffs, and a space in your backpack for an extra piece of equipment. Swing and launch a shark with Maw of the Deep, shoot lightning from your hands with Lightning Bolt, freeze enemies and watch them shatter in a brilliant flash with Ice Crossbow and Piercing Bolt, slice and dice with a massive electric bident, spin and bounce on enemies' heads like a circus freak with the King's Scepter, flash fry everything on screen with magic missiles. Add a secondary weapon that can combo with your first one, and you can see the build potential possibilities. With 2 skill slots to fill, from lightning rods that zap everything in between them, to sending a flurry of bats at enemies in front of you, flame grenades, a jump and smash attack that creates a seismic shock on landing, or morph skills that turn you into a chicken as you hatch explosive eggs behind you. Things are starting to feel a little hectic, right? Well, the rabbit hole goes even deeper, Alice. When you transition from one major area to the next, you can visit the blacksmith, who can upgrade your weapons and skills for gold, but also re-roll the modifiers on them. That's right, every weapon and skill comes with random modifiers attached to them, from massive damage bonuses on specific debuff procs such as bleed, burn, poison, and electrify, to explosions on enemy death, arrows shot on attack, to status effect chance on parry. But enough spreadsheet talk. Here's where all that build theory crafting pays off. Combat in Dead Cells is furious, pixelated carnage. Speed multipliers gained from successive kills without taking damage can see you zooming through a stage like a gust in the wind. Dodging, parrying, crashing down on foes from above, and slaughtering everything in sight with your weapon and skill combos. It's arguably visual overload at times, but when you enter that flow state, you will begin to see an orchestration in the madness. Pay attention to enemy telegraphs to parry projectiles back at them, take advantage of the iframes on the dodge roll, and utilize the slam attack to stun and interrupt enemies before comboing into them with a weapon strike or skill. Enemy attacks can deal significant damage, so mitigation of that damage is the name of the game. You'll have a limited number of flask uses to restore your health, with refills only available before entering each new major area. So clutch them close to your breast, dear warrior, and move like a blade in the night, because you'll need your flask to make it to the end of a run. For the journey to the end is long and arduous, and with 13 unique bosses, you'll need to keep your wits about you so you can learn their movesets and effectively dispatch them. You will be dying a lot in Dead Cells. It's sort of non-negotiable, but each death teaches you enemy patterns and each run makes you sharper. And as you discover weapon and skill blueprints and craft them with the collector so they can be added to the potential pool of items that can be acquired in future runs, you'll find a favorite weapon or a favorite skill until you replace it with another favorite and another, until your experimentation with all the possibilities leads you to create a build powerful enough to carry you to the end. Dead Cells is available on Steam for $24.99 USD, with past sales seeing it get as low as $9.99. It's one of the best roguelites on the market. Buy it, play it, die until you beat it, then die some more. The next game on this list is another hidden combat gem that nobody knows about. with a mere 269 reviews on Steam, Timebreak Chronicles lives in obscurity, and I feel it's my job to attempt to bring it into the light. Timebreak Chronicles is perfect for this channel because it offers nothing but pure combat. 99% of Timebreak Chronicles will be spent traversing this branching, roguelike style pathway system, fighting in turn-based battles with a team of 6 characters, which you can set up to your liking in the hub world before starting off on a story mission, and you can also bring up to 4 reserve heroes along as well. And as you make your way through the campaign and navigate through these branching pathways, a staple of the roguelite genre, you'll encounter these speech node icons on the map, and these nodes are where you can unlock a new playable character, which comes equipped with their own skills and native relic, which is essentially a passive boon/buff from other roguelikes. And every single one of these characters can be leveled up from level 1 to level 3, and each level tier can range from simple damage boosts to a variety of additional passive effects, which makes each skill point spent meaningful and strategic, especially if you are in the middle of a run and have to consider which skill level ups to prioritize. Even cooler is that each of the character-specific relics can be made available for crafting and binding to any of the other characters by completing a character's specific quest criteria. And since every character can equip up to 4 different relics, the potential for build diversity is expanded even further. Outside of IPs like Suikoden, Timebreak Chronicles is one of the only games that boasts over 100 characters to find and collect, with each one being so wildly different from one another. Seriously, nothing is out of bounds. From Chuckles the Clown, who specializes in stunning enemies and delaying their turns, with an ability that shoots delicious pies in enemies' faces, to Darius the Marine, who goes into battle with an M16 and can throw grenades, or even call in an airstrike, to Zeke the Wrestler, who has moves like Clothesline, Dropkick, and a spectacular WWE finisher move that charges when you take damage, to Samuel the Lawbringer, who targets enemy lawbreakers and can sick the entire party, his posse, for a bully beatdown on an unfortunate enemy delinquent, to Slade the Rocker, who buffs the party with a power ballad and can enter a jam-fueled trance that deals AoE sonic damage and stuns enemies. The 100 plus character roster spans every combat archetype imaginable. Speaking of archetypes, Claire, the main protagonist of the game, is the ultimate flex character, as she is the only one who is able to shift between multiple archetypal forms. Switch to her armor form to deflect enemy projectiles back at them, or toss a party member like a football and watch them bounce off a target's dome. Plant a timed explosive in her scavenger form, and then watch it detonate for massive damage a few turns later. Or switch to her frozen form and deploy an ice drone that does AoE damage each turn, or lets her retreat into an igloo when critically injured to recover health. Beyond deep character customization, Timebreak Chronicles also features a unique Timebreak mechanic. Cast Rewind to raise an ally back from the dead, cast Unravel to wipe all enemies who are down but not out to prevent their resurrection, or Scan to get detailed information on an enemy's HP and stat distribution. These Timebreak abilities each have an associated currency cost, so you'll have to use them wisely to avoid running out of particles when you need them most. What makes Timebreak Chronicles especially unique is the fact that it's both a roguelike and a roguelite, and this is because of the fact that there are 2 modes in Timebreak Chronicles. Chronicle mode is the roguelite mode, where you will progress through a central narrative, and where every character you save will be permanently unlocked and added to your roster. In addition to this, the story mode offers a hub world where there are a ton of options that boost your overall power and offer a means of meta progression. From permanent upgrades to character skill trees, to the ability to craft character-specific relics and attach them to any other character in the game, to permanent stat boosts that carry over between runs. But if roguelikes are more your style, Timebreak Chronicles offers an entirely separate mode called the Singularity, that sees you starting out with a choice of around 10 starting characters that are randomly selected from the 100 plus character roster, and you are also allowed to choose a secondary character from another randomly generated pool. All other characters, though, will need to be acquired during the run itself, and for the Singularity mode you will have no meta progression buffs, and all skill level ups will naturally be reset once a run is completed. This is a great mode if you want a challenge that the chaotic randomness of a traditional roguelike provides. Timebreak Chronicles has a base price point of $14.99 USD on Steam, with past sale prices seeing it get as low as $7.49. With 100 plus characters to master across 2 distinct progression systems, Timebreak Chronicles offers hundreds of hours of tactical experimentation, and at this price point it is a must buy if you value combat and tactical depth above all else.